Hi, I am Mary Grace Colanggo and I'm going to introduce the trial and error method in teaching mathematics. Trial and error is a problem-solving method in which multiple attempts are made to reach a solution. It is a basic method of learning that essentially all organisms use to learn new behaviors. It is the most primitive and simplest way in which learning occurs. Placed in a new situation, the individual makes a number of random movements. Those which are unsuccessful are eliminated and successful are fixed. It is learned by blundering, by trying something, and succeeding or failing. According to William Thorpe, the term was devised by C. Lloyd Morgan after trying out similar phrases, trial and failure, and trial and practice. Under Morgan's canon, animal behavior should be explained in the simplest possible way. Where behavior seems to imply higher mental processes, it might be explained by trial and error learning. According to Thorndike, learning takes place through a process of approximation and correction. A person makes a number of trials. Some responses do not give satisfaction to the individual, but he goes on making further trial till he gets satisfactory response. Basic principles. All learning is a matter of bond connections, strengthening neutral connections between situations and responses. A stimulus is connected with response by SR bond. These bonds may be motor, perceptual, conceptual, emotional, or attitudinal. Learning is the process by which these bonds are formed. The stimulus may be in the form of a motive, need, or desire to reach the goal. This impels one to activity. In order to reach the goal, the individual makes a number of responses to the situation. He makes a number of trials. Let the trials be R1, R2, R3, R4, and etc. Some responses may be successful as these do not help the individual to reach the goal. Such responses are automatically eliminated. This is in accordance with Thorndike's law of effect, which states that the connection is strengthened by satisfactory responses and weakened by annoying response. In this manner, progressive elimination of unsatisfactory, unsuccessful, and irrelevant responses takes place. Out R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, the first four responses may be unsuccessful. The final response by which the goal is reached has a strengthening effect. If RS is satisfactory response, there is established strong bond between the stimulus and response. Advantages of the method. The first advantage can rightly be considered a creative approach. Tasks solved by trial and error allow you to use both hemispheres of the brain to search for an answer. It is worth citing as an example how boats were built. The excavations show how over the centuries, detail after detail has changed shape. Researchers are constantly trying something new. If the boat was sinking, then this form was crossed out. If it remained to stay in the water, then they took it into account. Thus, a compromise solution was finally found. If the task is not too complicated, then this method takes a little time. Some problems may have 10 options, one or two of which will be correct. The division of tasks into several levels makes it possible to assess how fast and possible the search for a solution is. This reduces the time for a decision. Educational implications of trial and error theory of learning. Motivation is very important in the teaching learning process. Learning should be made purposeful and goal-directed. Theory stresses the importance of mental readiness, meaningful practice, and intensive in learning processes. More opportunities should be given to the learners to use and repeat the knowledge they get in the classroom. The learner should be encouraged to do his task independently. He must try various solutions of the problem before arriving at the correct one. The theory that supports the trial and error method. Edward Lee Thorndike S.R. Learning Theory and Connectionism Theory. Thorndike first stated the elements of his theory of learning in 1913, that connections are formed in the nervous system between stimuli and response. These connections formed are illustrated by the symbols SR. Another word used to describe these connections is the word bond, and hence, this theory is sometimes called a bond theory of learning. Thorndike has written, "Learning is connecting, the mind is man's connection system." According to Thorndike, learning takes place by trial and error. Some people call it learning by selection of the successful variant. Accordingly, when no ready-made solution of a problem is available to the learner, he adopts the method of trial and error. He first tries one solution. If it does not help him, he rejects it. Then he tries another, and so on. In this way, he eliminates errors or irrelevant responses which do not serve the purpose and finally discovers the correct solution. Thus, in trial and error method, the learner makes random activities and finally reaches the goal accidentally. Here, one thing should be remembered, that in trial and error also, there are often systematic and relevant responses. Activities do not wholly random. All these activities, though apparently random, are suggested to him by the situation, and the learner proceeds on accordingly. The stages through which the learner has to pass are goal, block, random, movements or multiple response, chance success, selection, and fixation. Thorndike's trial and error experiment. Thorndike formulated trial and error based on his experiments conducted on his cats in the puzzle box. The door of the box could be opened by pulling the strings inside the box. A fish was kept outside. The cat was tried to come out of the box by squeezing, jumping, biting, etc. As the experiment was repeated for several times, the wrong movements decreased, and in the end, the cat was able to open the door in a single trial. The laws of learning, the primary laws and the secondary laws. The primary laws are follows. Law of readiness. It is the law of readiness or the law of action tendency, which means that learning takes place when an action tendency is aroused through preparatory adjustment, set, or attitude. Law of effect, according to which the trial or steps leading to satisfaction stamps in the bond or connection. Satisfying states leading to consolidation and strengthening of the connection, whereas dissatisfaction, annoyance, or pain leads to the weakening or stamping out of the connection. The law of exercise means that drill or practice helps in increasing efficiency and durability of learning, and according to Thorndike's SR bond theory, the connections are strengthened with trial or practice, and the connections are weakened when trial or practice is discontinued. The law of exercise, therefore, is also understood as the law of use and disuse. These are the secondary laws. Law of multiple response implies that confronted with a new situation, the organism responds in a variety of ways before arriving at the correct response. Law of attitude. Learning is guided by the attitude of the organism towards the task. The learner performs the task properly if he has developed a healthy attitude towards the task. Prepotency of elements. The learner reacts selectively to the important or essential element in the situation and neglects the other features or elements which may be irrelevant or non-essential. Law of analogy. An individual responds to a new situation on the basis of the responses made by him in similar situation in the past. That is, the organism makes responses by analogy. Law of associative shifting. The law states that any response may elicit from the learner in associated with any situation to which he is sensitive. These are the related research that uses trial and error. Sample lesson plan that uses trial and error method in teaching. And lastly are the references of the trial and error information. That's it for trial and error method in teaching mathematics. Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned something in this video.